One of the most important and central concepts that you need to internalize, because it is absolutely natural, is that everything that is natural has power. This concept is absolute ruthlessness toward oneself. You will never see a fawn or a rabbit, exhausted from running and having lost motivation, lie down and submit to being eaten. When a little piglet's neck is bitten by a wolf, it continues to thrash and fight for its life. A daisy pushes through concrete, with no understanding of what will happen next. A human, due to the complexity of their psyche and disorganization, is capable of betraying their nature in ways no other living being can. But this is just a particular case. A human has immense freedom of will. Similarly, no other living being has the ability to exert the same level of will in life as a human. And what do we need to understand about self-pity? Self-pity is the main limiting quality. Every time we fail to give our best, every time we don't push ourselves to our fullest potential, we encounter the same feeling. I feel bad, uncomfortable, I feel unwell, I don't have the strength to continue, I want to stop. What's going on? If, in that moment, you can hold in your mind that you are doing this work, this action, right now, in order to never again be in such a state of discomfort, you will be able to overcome it. Self-pity or absolute ruthlessness toward oneself is not a dial that you can turn up or down. It's a switch, either up or down. You can't be a little pregnant or a little killer. You either are or you're not. You are either responsible for yourself and your life or you are not. Self-pity can only arise within the illusion that life is infinite. There is a very simple exercise that I offer to you. It consists of, when you feel overwhelmed, scared, or exhausted, to imagine and believe that what you are doing right now is the very last action of your life. After this, nothing will follow. Nothing. Nothing. I discovered this technique for myself after dozens of struggles. As I discussed in previous lessons when I asked myself, why didn't I give my best? I remember certain moments from the fight and think, why didn't I push harder? Why did I pity myself? The reason is simple. I feared running out of energy to the point where I could no longer function, as I mentioned earlier. All of our lives are driven by the quest to accumulate energy and escape from thermal death. Fatigue is a precursor to thermal death. If you take the belief that what you are doing right now is the very last thing you'll do, and thermal death will occur regardless, it's a powerful perspective. This wisdom is captured in the Bushido code of the samurai, who understood that the warrior who wins is the one who has reconciled with defeat and death before the battle begins. You see, this philosophy doesn't allow for hesitation or the illusion that things will always be okay. It teaches that once you accept death as a certainty, every moment becomes a clear choice. Life then becomes about living fully, with no fear of the end. It doesn't mean being reckless, but rather living with full awareness of the transient nature of life. That you will die and perish regardless. Only then do your actions become as precise and timely as possible. This happens because you eliminate the psychological reserve that is subconsciously designed to hold you back in order to prevent you from dying. Self-pity is an illusory construct of a winning strategy within the framework of an infinite life. When life seems infinite, when you think everything will always be available, that you can always return to certain people, places, and situations. In reality, each moment is unique and the situation changes. If, at 16, you didn't have a beautiful girl or an exciting sexual life, and at 70, you decide to surround yourself with a harem, this won't improve the quality of your life. It doesn't matter whether you have these experiences at 70 or not. What matters is what you do now. The lack of something at 16 doesn't necessarily need to be compensated by something else later in life. We cannot fill the voids of our moments by accumulating things that never were. What we can do is fill every moment we have with purpose. The cure for self-pity lies in the use of a technique I've shared, a forced reduction through hypnosis, and the perception of the scale of life in relation to any given action. Imagine you're heading to an interview and everything is blocked. You tell yourself, I don't care whether they accept me or not. I will die after this meeting. Once the interview ends, I die. My life ends. So I go into it giving my all. This approach can be applied to anything. Whether you're facing a fight, a business meeting, an artistic project, a scientific endeavor, political discussions, or even family conversations. Let's say you're afraid of talking to your parents, or there's something you dread saying. You tell yourself, I'm going to do this. Once it's over, I die. That's it. This technique annihilates feelings of shame, tension, and everything related to fear or hesitation. To begin pushing energy, to perform a large volume of work, to be precise and timely, without engaging in futile efforts, you must adopt absolute ruthlessness toward yourself. This ruthless attitude is simply the direct consequence of recognizing your mortality. When I engage in a fight with someone, I'm not afraid of their blows because the worst they can do is kill me. How can you scare me with something I know will happen anyway? I know I will die, and in reality, all your fears point to this eventuality. When I go for a job interview, the worst thing I fear is not being accepted. Instead, I fear not trying at all. I fear not pushing forward. I fear not giving my best, even if there is no guarantee of success. In all situations, whether it's talking to a girl, approaching an opportunity, or facing any challenge, the deepest fear is that of not trying and losing that precious chance to act. The fear of not trying, of failing to act fully in the moment, is far more destructive than the fear of actual failure. I'll go meet her, and she might say she doesn't want to be with me, or she might not love me. I might not have children, and my genetic line will not continue through time and space. I'll die without leaving a trace. Any fear you experience is rooted in this ultimate truth: death. And yet, you must face it. Understanding and accepting that you will die, and that fear of death is rooted in the ego, gives you the clarity to face all challenges with courage and full commitment. I step onto the stage. No one will applaud me. I will be pelted with rotten tomatoes. I will be mocked. I will leave in shame. And society will exile me, and I will die in exile. When you come to terms with the fact that sooner or later you will die, this is a guarantee, and there is nothing left to fear. The truth is, there is nothing that can truly scare you except the threat of death. But if you already know this is going to happen to you, the only thing you will fear is that your whole life will pass by without achieving what you wanted. This is the point where the fear of wasting your life will outweigh the fear of losing your life. Only then will you begin to freely do what you truly want. What I want to share with you is about personal responsibility. This is a concept I use which involves, first and foremost, stopping reacting to reality and starting to manage it. When a terrorist enters a room and starts shooting, people fall into two types. One stands frozen, staring wide-eyed, while the other tries to escape or fight back. From this, one simple law follows. Every second you spend reacting to reality is a missed second in which you could have had an impact on it. If I put two beginners, not athletes, just ordinary people, next to a heavy bag and both of them have the desire and goal to learn to punch with their right hand. If the first person, after each failed attempt, grumbles saying, "Ah, damn it, why can't I do this?" and starts getting upset. We all know that feeling when you try something new and it doesn't work right away. And you get angry, you start reacting emotionally. The second person, however, simply stands there, throwing punches over and over, focused solely on the process, identifying what they did wrong and adjusting. One person tries once every 5, 6, or 7 seconds. The other person will make an attempt every 2 or 3 seconds. By the end of an hour of training, the difference in volume will not only be twice as large, but will be significantly greater. This is the moment when quantity transforms into quality. By the end of their first training session, the person who does not react emotionally, but instead consciously reflects and corrects their movements, will achieve greater progress. They are not wasting time, energy, or effort. Their focus on improvement leads to a shift from quantity to quality. Over time, this difference will become even more pronounced. This is where personal responsibility comes into play. My personal responsibility for my life lies in my ability to focus on the impact I can have on reality. If I'm sitting idly while a missile falls on my house, a bomb lands, or some external crisis occurs, it's not about reacting emotionally. It's about recognizing how I can adjust my own actions in response to the situation. The most foolish thing I can do is to start complaining and saying, "Damn it, I'm sitting here, living in the heart of Ukraine. Bombs are falling on my head. Where is this even happening? Why did I deserve this? Why my house? What did I do to deserve this?" The truth is, we often get caught up in questioning the unfairness of situations, but in reality, such thoughts don't serve us. The explosion happens, and we die. That's it. Life is unpredictable, and we can't waste time in self-pity. This applies to every situation in life. Once again, I'll repeat the law. Every moment spent reacting is a moment of influence lost. If, for a long time, you keep reacting emotionally to things, an enormous amount of potential impact you could have had on your reality is wasted. By doing so, you fail to eliminate the root causes of these reactions. If all the years you've spent suffering, not knowing how to find a beloved one or maintain a good relationship with a woman, had been spent simply talking with women in everyday situations, whether at work or anywhere else, asking questions, connecting with them, even in the simplest ways, you would have found that the issue would no longer exist. It's an incredibly important point. The second aspect of personal responsibility is focusing on what is within your control and being clear about what is not. The ratio is 90 to 10. In simple terms, focus on what you can do and don't waste your energy on things that are beyond your control. You must be aware of your capabilities and limits. Many people believe that they can convince others simply by talking to them, but this is not true. No one has ever changed their mind on a key issue simply because of a conversation. Only a select few people in the world have that kind of power. Remember all your discussions, your debates, and your attempts to convince others. Think about how many times it has actually worked. The ratio is incredibly low. You've made thousands of attempts, and the number of successful results can be counted on a few fingers. Trying to change someone's deeply held beliefs with words is like using a cannon to shoot at sparrows. It's not effective and a waste of resources. This is what observing reality is all about. It's simply acknowledging that you cannot change people's minds with words, and that's perfectly fine. What's not okay is ignoring this reality. Until you honestly admit where your limits are, what you are not capable of, you cannot begin to work on what you can do. And this is where the truth of life comes in. It's quite an irony. The strongest people on the planet are those who have no illusions about what they can do. They understand that their abilities are limited, but they use the little that they can do and amplify that to the fullest. On the other hand, weak people act as if they can do everything, and this leads to the opposite result. The third aspect of personal responsibility that I want to share is this. I'm not interested in what someone else did wrong. What matters to me is what I could have done better and what I did wrong. I'm explaining this to you because it's vital for growth. In that split second when you decide to focus on the external world, you completely lose control over your internal state. This happens because your brain finds it much easier to shift the blame for failure to the outside world. It's easier to say that circumstances beyond your control are the reason you're not succeeding rather than acknowledging that you could have done better or done something differently. If you accept the idea that you could have acted better or done something wrong, you'll be faced with feelings of inadequacy and incompetence, which are unpleasant. Your mind finds a way to avoid this discomfort by shifting responsibility onto the external world. This creates a vacuum where you can remain good and wonderful, while everyone around you is the problem. Here's a very simple way to recognize whether everything is fine with you or not. If you're living poorly, the problem is you. Period. Again, if you lack money, health, charisma, intelligence, memory, energy, playfulness, good mood, family, friends, anything at all, it's entirely your fault. If we sat down at the table right now and you shared your life with me and said, "It's not perfect, but it's how it is," I'd sit down and with a pen, I'd write 50 things for every area of your life that you could improve. You'd look at the list and say, I already know this, but I'm not doing it. That's the entire difference. It's simple. It's this lack of ruthless self-awareness that limits your ability to look at yourself honestly. I'd rather feel like a fool for 1 second and immediately start fixing and improving the situation than avoid feeling bad for 1 second and end up experiencing negative consequences for the rest of my life. Anything that improves your life requires focus. Without focus, you're capable of nothing. This is the starting point. Whether in boxing, business, love, family, art, or science to get results, you need the ability to focus, to work hard and consistently every day with enthusiasm and energy. By acting in sporadic, weak, or unstructured ways, you'll achieve poor results or no results at all while wasting a lot of energy. This is what happens to most people. Therefore, before you try to do anything in your life, you must understand that you need to do it often, consistently, and systematically. To achieve this, you need to eliminate all distractions. That's it. If someone gave you $100 million right now and asked you to sit down and plan what you'd do first, you wouldn't know. You'd close all your ongoing projects, but after that, you wouldn't know what to do next. You've been so accustomed to living within limitations, your blocks, your complexes, your failures, that your entire consciousness has shrunk to fit the size of these limitations. And if they leave your life, you have no idea how it will all unfold. Your attention has long been diverted from what you truly desire in life to dealing with completely trivial, everyday things. This is the power of focus. It's pointless to focus on savings and cutting costs. Every unit of time and effort directed toward saving money is a unit of time and effort wasted, which could have been spent on finding strategies to radically increase wealth. Imagine if we took two parallel realities. One person strives to save as much as possible, cutting expenses everywhere they can, buying cheaper food, etc. The second person, however, doesn't care. They're constantly overpaying for things like taxi rides, at the cinema, in cafes, everywhere. But every free moment, they focus entirely on finding ways to become a millionaire. In 3 years, the first person will have learned how to live on the bare minimum, hitchhiking, shopping, at thrift stores. Meanwhile, the second person will have found a way to become a millionaire and will have achieved everything they wanted. This illustrates the power of focus. The first person learned the art of saving, but what did they gain in the end? Mastery in frugality? A life of survival? Meanwhile, the second person, though often overspending, focused on becoming wealthy, and because of that focus, they achieved their goals. This demonstrates a fundamental truth. What you choose to develop, you will receive. You either focus on abundance or scarcity. One of the most important concepts derived from accepting personal responsibility for your life is reducing every possible scenario to the realization that ultimately all outcomes hinge on whether you are fighting against your own future self. You are in direct opposition to your stronger future self, because in the end, the choices you make now are yours, and they shape the life you will lead. The struggle between your present self and the future version of you will continue to evolve. Every decision you make today either takes you closer to who you want to become or moves you farther from it. Let me explain this with an example. You can decide to go for a run and stop because it starts raining. Or you can go for a run and stop because you feel uncomfortable, because it's wet, cold, or inconvenient. But by simply recognizing how you speak about the situation, you can tell whether someone is taking responsibility for their life or not. When someone says, "I was offended," this says a lot about them. It indicates they're not taking responsibility. It shows that they are assigning power to external circumstances, rather than acknowledging that they themselves allowed those circumstances to affect them. This mindset leads to dramatic consequences in life. The ability to take responsibility allows you to see how much influence you have over your circumstances. If you can own your choices, you can change your life. You see, every moment is an opportunity to make a choice. The act of choosing your response to life is where your true power lies. When you stop blaming and start owning, your ability to grow increases exponentially. It doesn't matter what happens to you. What matters is how you handle it. This is where true strength lies, in the ability to remain composed and thoughtful regardless of external events. Over time, this practice of taking responsibility and controlling your reactions will lead to a life where you are no longer tossed around by circumstances, but you shape your own destiny. A person begins to view themselves as an object of existence rather than a subject. They do not say, "I am upset," or "I am distressed," or "I am affected," but rather, "I have been offended." This is one of the clearest examples of what happens when a person fails to take responsibility for their life. They begin to act passively, blaming others for their situation. I recall an example from a well-known blogger who admitted that she posted provocative pictures online to gain attention. She said, "I post pictures like this because Instagram doesn't promote my profile unless I do." While this might be true, the blogger fails to acknowledge that there are countless other accounts that remain viral without resorting to such methods. What should this blogger have done instead? She should have asked herself, "What can I do to improve my profile so Instagram will start promoting me?" Instead of positioning herself as a victim of circumstances, as though she has no control over her own actions. A more striking example comes from my own experience. I was listening to YouTube videos in the background when, as usual, the autoplay feature switched to a video by a well-known speaker. Now he's an interesting figure, and I thought I'd listen to his perspective to step out of my echo chamber. During the video, he was asked why younger people don't listen to him. His response was, "Well, when they open a video and see an old, gray, bearded man like me, they lose interest. The youth need something flashy, like popular young influencers or modern figures." In essence, he was saying, "I'm not to blame. It's the audience that's wrong." At that moment, I opened Google and Wikipedia to check on another well-known figure who is adored by young people worldwide. What's fascinating is that this person is the same age as the previous speaker. So, what's the fundamental difference in approach? The second individual chose to embrace the challenge of communicating effectively with the younger generation. The first person chose to blame the audience, the circumstances, and external factors, instead of asking himself, "Why is this other person my age being listened to by young people, and I am not?" To find the answer, the first person would have to acknowledge that there's a difference between two versions of himself. One version is the person he wants to be, the one the youth listens to, and the other is the version who, despite being the same age, is ignored by them. It's about taking responsibility for how he could influence the situation and alter his reality. This process of simplification is key. By reducing the complexity of external events to this internal challenge, he could reach the point of maximal personal responsibility, allowing him to impact his reality rather than react to it. Do you understand? There is a fundamental and significant difference between simply saying and truly believing that young people don't listen to me because I'm old. Imagine the mindset that comes with reacting to reality in this way. Well, reality is like this, or reality is like that. What can we do about it? It's bad. Let's just sit here and complain, or do something similar. This attitude reflects a failure to address the situation proactively. Now, if you want to translate this into a practical task, here's the exercise I'm giving you. The essence of this exercise is simple. Sit down and take all the challenges and tasks that you currently face in life and convert them into this language of personal responsibility. Identify that part of yourself, that version of you, which is preventing you from moving forward towards your goals. Every time something stands in your way in the future, do not entertain the illusion that it's something external, something beyond your control, or something that requires your focus to be external. The real question is always within you. What do you choose? And here's the magic. When you start translating everything into this language, in some incomprehensible way, everything truly starts to depend on you and your choices. This process is about recognizing that everything in life, whether it's challenges, obstacles, or distractions, can be redefined in terms of how you respond to them. If you truly understand that you hold the power to make decisions, you will stop attributing blame to external circumstances and begin seeing every situation as a challenge that can be shaped and overcome by your choices. Life will present obstacles, but once you shift your perception, you will begin to view these hurdles as opportunities for growth and personal development. The more you practice this, the more you will realize that nothing in life happens by accident, and every outcome is a direct result of your own actions. It all boils down to how you decide to approach life and how much control you're willing to take over your own fate.